Hello my dear friends, welcome to the channel. My name is Vlad, I am a DJ and one-man band music producer, and in today's tutorial I'm going to teach you guys how to layer and process your Anjunadeep bass so it sounds powerful, interesting and professional. This is a second video from my free Anjunadeep training. If you haven't checked the first one, I'm going to link it up here, so make sure to check it out because I've shown you how I made this track that we're gonna be working with today: the kick, the bass, the instruments, chords and the drums. So no more talking and let's start with the tutorial. So what do you guys think of the track? Did you like it? Let me know in the comments below what you think. And also guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, hit that notification bell and leave your comment below so you don't miss any tutorials, tips and tricks that will help you a lot with your music career. You can download this project for free guys, just click the link in the description or in the first comment, and you will also get an access to my free Anjunadeep webinar live training where I will teach you how to make this track from scratch. So when you layer your bass, your leads, you can split your sound into different bands. So for example, in this case, I have a sub layer and a top layer. The sub layer is a foundation of our track. It's the main bass sound that is giving power to our track, so make sure it sounds good so it works well with the kick. And for the sub layer, I'm using two oscillators. You can play around with different waveforms, but in general for the sub layer I usually use waveforms like square, saw, maybe sine and sometimes triangle. These are the basic waveforms that sound powerful, because sometimes for different tracks one waveform may work better than another one. So for example, maybe for your track the square sounds better than the saw or a sine. So it's really about experimenting here, but in this case I'm using two saws and they stack on top of each other, and that is giving the power to the bass line, which is really important. The next thing you want to pay a lot of attention to is making sure that the length of your bass works well with the kick. So for example, if we listen to the kick and the bass, now it sounds fine, but what if I increase the length? It doesn't sound really good. So either you can have a long kick and shorter bass, or you have a long bass and shorter kick, because you have a limited amount of space in your mix. So the next thing, if you want to really split the sub layer from your top or mid layer, is to use an EQ, and I think you can go up to like 100. It's going to be really subby, just the low frequencies, as you can hear guys. But here, once again, just play around. I recommend starting with 200, maybe 150. This is like a good starting point, because for your top layer you will cut the low end, and for the sub layer you will cut the high end. Alright, so I hope you guys get this one. The next thing is really important, and make sure to use utility or some kind of like stereo tool that makes the sub in mono. Even though you can select mono in the synthesizer, as you can see guys here, still make sure to use stereo tools to make it in mono 100%, because if you don't do that, you maybe will not hear that really good, but still it takes the stereo space of the mix, so your instruments will not sound as clean as if you would make your kick, bass and other elements in mono, so pay a lot of attention to that. And this one should go before the EQ. And yeah, I've told that. And yeah, some overdrive and the side chain, yeah, just some basic things. And now guys, the most interesting part kicks in, and this is a top layer. So let's solo the top layer. The top layer is more about sound design. Here you can experiment with delays, with reverbs, with phaser, flanger, any kind of effects, because if you look carefully at the equalizer, I've cut the very, very low end, so therefore it's not really a huge problem when we are using delays, reverbs, etc., because we've got the low end and we are not worried about the phase conflicts, phase issues, all of that. And for the top layer, I usually go with more complex wave tables, waveforms. So for example, we could go maybe, this is collections. All right, so let's try maybe some, yeah, let's try collections. Maybe just something like that. Yeah, that sounds interesting. We can also play around with the FM. As you can hear, the sound slightly changes. Maybe we can apply some FM here. Yeah, I think I'm gonna keep it something like that. I've noticed that it's better to use for the sub layer more basic waveforms like sine, square, saw, triangle, and for your top layer it's better to use more complex waveforms, maybe some FM modulation, so you really have like a contrast. The contrast in music is so important. And here guys, it's really simple. The amplitude, the envelope is just the same as the sub, because we are layering the same sound. The length should be almost the same. You can experiment with the length for the top layer because it doesn't have a lot of low frequencies, but usually I do just the same length both for the sub and for my top layer. And here we've also modulated the frequency cutoff with the second envelope. And one more thing you can use to make your bass wider is a unison mode. Inside wavetable, there are different unison modes. For this example, I'm using shimmer. You can just play around, and usually 4 voices is good enough. Because if we don't use unison, yeah, it still sounds good though. Maybe sometimes you don't want to make your top layer wide, but sometimes you can do that. So just play around and see what fits your track. And the processing is similar to the bass, but here I'm using a utility and I'm making everything that is below 100 Hertz in mono, so we don't have any phase issues, phase conflicts. And the next step, guys, is to use an equalizer. And for the top, you usually cut like something like that. You can do something similar because everything that is below 200 is not really needed, is not necessary for your top layer because these frequencies are taken by the sub. So you can do something similar, something like that. And also you can play around with mid-side EQ. So for example, you can see that I have boosted side and it made the bass wider. So look what happens when I bypass the equalizer. Our bass line is way more muddy now. And now, once again, you can hear the sub and the top, and they sound good together. So it's really important to cut the low end for your top layer. By the way, guys, if you want to know how to use mid-side EQ, what is mid-side EQ, I'm going to link a video up here, and this video is everything you need to know to start using mid-side EQ for your mixes. I've tried to explain everything as simple as possible so you can guys understand and start using mid-side EQ for your tracks. Alright, so the next step is using delays. And delays, I love using delays. Different delays, short delays, long delays is what will take your mixes to the next level. So for example, let me show you guys. I'm going to mute the sub and I'm going to mute the delay and the reverb, and let's listen to the top layer. It's really flat, like in mono. It doesn't sound really interesting. Oh, sorry, the sound is really flat. Feels like in mono, some like in the box where is not a lot of space. But look what happens when I apply just one single delay. Now it's way more interesting, and when I apply reverb, and with the unison. Oops, I think. And now, guys, it sounds way more interesting, way more professional. And before we end with this video, let's quickly talk about the group processing. Yes, of course, this is not like real mixing, but I'm going to give you just 2 tips that you can start using at any stage of your track production. The first tip is about using saturator, because saturator works in a similar way as a compressor. If you want to use saturator like a pro, I'm going to link a video, one more video, where you can learn more about saturation, what is saturation, how to use it, and how it can take your mixes to the next level. So yeah, just use saturator on individual channels in the grooves. It will add more harmonics to the sound and make it more powerful. On smaller systems as well, this is really important. So your bass will be more pronounced. You will be able to hear it even on systems that don't have a lot of sub, a lot of bass. And the next step is about using a compressor, a parallel processing. So as you can see, the ratio is set 10:1. And when you are using parallel compression, parallel processing, you are mixing very, very compressed sound to your original signal in 1:1 ratio, and it will make the sound more powerful. It's not really same, for example, if I copy the compressor and if I just use, you know, just tiny bit of compression. Oops. Yeah, something like that. It doesn't really work, but when you use, especially on the drums, on the low end group, it glues together your sound. So this is really a cool trick that you can use for your tracks. As you can see, it squashes the sound, and now the kick and the bass, they are more glued together. Alright guys, that was all for today. I hope you guys liked this video. I hope that you found value and learned something new. And if you liked this video, if you really learned something, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, click that notification bell, and leave your comment below with your opinion, or maybe just say hello. I'm always open to start a new conversation with you guys. And once again guys, I want to invite you to join me on my free Anjunadeep training. It will be in a form of webinar live where I'm going to make this track from scratch, so you see the whole process. And also guys, you can download this project for free. Just click the link in the description and in the first comment. Thank you very much guys for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.